How's it going, fellas? Welcome back to another video. Happy Independence Day, by the way, if you're here in the United States, and if you are having fun traveling or having a party of some kind, just be safe, don't drive intoxicated, and enjoy. Have you guys ever gotten into a game of chess and thought to yourself, I don't actually want to play this game, and before your opponent makes a move or you make your first move, you have this opportunity to abort the match? Well, I had that opportunity today, and that's what I went through, but instead of aborting, I went ahead and played it through, and this is that game. Let's take a look. In this game, we get the black pieces. Our opponent opens up with E4, and then we obviously been playing a lot of the Scandinavian recently, so we follow suit. We start getting the Scandinavian defense coming in. He takes, and we take back with our queen. Now, when the knight comes out, the move I've been going here has always been queen A5. I just learned it in an opening, and I've been sticking with it. The other ones I've always seen were like queen back to D7. Computer says it's a good move, or just simply bring the queen back to D8. However, bringing the queen back to D8 always just seemed like a waste of time, so I really leaned into learning the A5 route, where it just keeps the queen out there in the middle. And it doesn't feel like I'm just taking one step forward and two steps back. He brings out his pawn on D4, and then we bring out our knight. He brings out his bishop. We push our pawn on C6. He develops his knight. These are all book moves, by the way. I was kind of impressed with ourselves in this game, both being in the 1400 range in a rapid time format, that this is move 6 and we're still doing book moves. However, I'm the first one to deviate with a little bit of an inaccuracy. The computer says you would want to bring the bishop here to F5. I just think bringing the bishop out here to G4, even though it's an inaccuracy, it just makes sense, right? Because we're obviously putting a pin on his knight and threatening his queen. So it just feels like a fine move. He defends with bringing his own bishop out, defending his knight, and developing and giving him an opportunity to castle. So now he's ready to castle whenever he sees fit. We develop our knight, and he pushes our bishop away. We decide to step back rather than taking. Computer says taking here would actually be the best move. I'm just trying to practice on like good principles, and unless I'm really forced to take a trade, I do try to stay aware of the idea, like, do I have to take the trade or not? And I didn't see anything obvious here where like I'm not doubling up his pawns, right? If I take and he double up his pawns, then great, I'd love that. But obviously he doesn't have to do that. So that's why I decided to just take a step back and wait for another opportunity to come around. He castles, I bring my queen back, he moves his knight around. He's obviously threatening to take my bishop. He has two attackers on my bishop. I only have one defender. So now I decide to take with this bishop. He takes back and I push my pawn forward. This says it's the best move. And obviously I think it's because I'm able to open up the diagonal for my last minor piece to get developed. He moves his knight to E4. I've developed my bishop. He moves his queen. This is an accuracy, but you kind of see his plan. He has two attackers on this knight. Not that it really matters because I have 1, 2, 3 defenders. However, it seems a bit more active. I go ahead and take the knight. So even though I was just talking about how I don't try to take pieces if I don't have to, I kind of go against my own advice and take anyways. I figured I didn't really like how much pressure he was putting on here, even though I'm like wildly defended. I should be good, but I kind of like to clear up the air a little bit. I didn't feel like this felt bad at any sense. He's going to probably take, because if not, then I'm also obviously threatening the bishop. He takes. I bring my knight out to attack his queen. He steps back. I move my knight around. He moves to G3. And then I snap take his knight. So this is one of those cases where this seems like a very obvious, just boom, take it, because the only way he can capture back is to double up his pawns. So this is like probably the first move of the game where when I'm taking a piece, it felt like, oh yeah, I didn't even have to think. How much time did I take on that? I took 3 seconds to figure out I was going to snap take, and it was indeed the best move. Again, just because when you take back, now he has doubled isolated pawns, and he's opening up his king for attack. So now his king is no longer as safe as it used to be. I bring my knight out just to throw a little attack on the queen and to potentially reroute my queen, get up in there. I want my knight to be up in there to help me out, since I'm not going to be able to get a rook up to help anytime soon with all these pawns in the way. I realize he can just take with his bishop if he wants to, but he doesn't. He moves his queen. I step my knight back just to save it. I would like to perhaps use it in the attack. Threatening to take this pawn. He pushes. I push around. I threaten his queen again. He steps here, and I'm able to safely land my knight on F5. I don't have to worry about any pawns trying to kick me out. So in a sense, this is kind of like an outpost. He moves to c3. I castle queenside. It says it's an accuracy. And honestly, I found like when I castle queenside, it always seems to be rough for me. Castling king kind of usually works out better for me. The reason why I castled queenside is because I want to do a heavy attack on the king side since this king is so exposed. So why would I want to castle king side if I'm going to try and move my own pawns anyways? He has a little mistake here on f4, but I don't really capitalize on it. It says for me the best move would be queen b6. I did consider queen b6, and I do consider it in the next few moves. I see that he has this weakness on the b2 pawn. I always just thought I was simply defended with like a rook b1, and at that point, where's my queen going? You know what I mean? Because all these pawns are guarding all these dark squares, plus I can't go here, and like, what's the point of me coming here? Like, maybe eventually bring my queen to d3, threaten this, and come down. Like, I don't know. It just felt too slow. So the computer is going to suggest that I do queen b6 several times just to throw an attack on the b2 pawn, I think. But it just felt too slow for my liking. Gameplay continues. I went ahead and offered a trade of these pawns. I obviously saw that his queen and king were in line. So my idea is if this pawn doesn't exist and this is an open file, I can simply bring one of my rooks over to then skewer the queen to the king and hopefully win some major material. He takes, I swap on over. Now he can't take because he's losing his queen. He steps his king out of the way from this discovered attack, but I have an opportunity to then take that pawn back and threaten the queen. He steps away. Here, I missed a nice little tactic, nice little fork with the knight. What I should do here is knight to g3, offering a fork, but for some reason I missed it and I went to double up my rooks. In the heat of the battle, it just seems like there's a lot going on here, and I was so focused on finding a way to get my queen over, my rooks doubled, and getting some sort of attack over here that I completely missed a nice little tactic where I could just win some material. So gameplay looks like this. I doubled my rooks. He makes a huge mistake. Simply what he should do here is offer a trade of rooks, because I just lost my advantage. My advantage was a move ago when I could take one of these rooks away, where my computer says black is favored by 4 points of material. But I missed it, doubled my rooks, and then he missed this idea where he can keep the advantage small, where black is only favored by almost 2 points. And then the idea would be if we take, this is a lot more manageable for white, even though he still has a disadvantage. But it's not so clear as black what to do here. First thing I see is maybe queen b6 finally attacking this idea, but already the computer doesn't really like that move as much. And all my moves seem to be passive. So the best moves right here in this position apparently are queen to a5, but this gets met with just b3. And then what am I doing with my queen? Am I coming over here to d5? Okay. Yeah, it's tough. So if white decides to lock in and play a very solid chess, this actually isn't that simple of a position to really follow through with. Fortunately for us though, our opponent makes a huge mistake. I'm so surprised they don't consider this a blunder. It's just a mistake, but now black is favored by almost 5 points of material. We bring our queen over to e7. He does this pawn push. And for a second, I get kind of nervous. Sometimes I do not do a really good job when people that I play against start pushing pawns on the opposite side. I sometimes feel like, oh, I don't know how to react to this. Like any pawn move I do is just bad, right? You can see the eval just completely tank. Instead of worrying about these pawns over here on the queen side, I decided to stay true to my own plan. And fortunately, the computer thinks that this is the best move. Queen to h4. He has another mistake with the queen. White felt pretty forced to go to f3 here. He sees that he needs to defend this g3 square. When his queen's right here, let's say he does a nothing move, then this is absolutely devastating, right? And he comes back, boom. Oh, little forky fork with the knight. Ooh, he has to step over here, and that's another check, and it's just not looking good for white. When he brings his queen to f3, it's a mate in 6. I simply went to rook g3, threatening to take the queen, pushing him off from being able to defend all these attacks I have going. And if he steps away, then this is just mate. So what you'd have to do is he'd have to take, but then that's not good either, because I could take with the queen, put him in check. He'd have to step back, and then I simply win another rook. White cannot stop this mate that's about to happen. The computer says the best move here is literally c4 is the best move. And then it's checkmate. So I think that's very funny. When it's a mate in 1, the computer's just like, well, there's nothing you can actually do, so just push c4. Otherwise, you put your rook here, but then it's a mate in 1 regardless. If white had moved his rook to f3, no longer do we have a mate in 6, but rather we're just significantly ahead on material. The follow-up would be queen to h5, pinning the rook to the queen. Rook f2, queen takes, rook takes, knight h4, getting a third attacker on this g2 square. Rook to e3. You simply just have a check. We're going to be winning some material here. Take the bishop, and it should be easy peasy territory for black. So even though that I missed my nice little tactic where I could win a major piece, it worked out in the end. But it only worked out because our opponent made a follow-up mistake and did rook to f2, when really all he had to do was offer a trade of rooks, and then this game would have been a lot more of a uncertainty. Black is still favored slightly, but it's not easy peasy territory like you guys have heard me say plenty of times before. I just feel fortunate enough that even though this was a game where I thought about clicking out of and aborting because I didn't actually want to play a slower time control, I was hoping just to do a quick little blitz game. I decided not to hit abort and then just focus in and continue on my rapid grind. And fortunately enough, we locked in, focused up, and we got the win. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you again. Have fun this weekend. Enjoy the festivities and the holiday break, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. Bye.